The alien general, Kale Thor, stood on the bridge of his massive warship. His towering figure loomed over the crew as he stared at the blue-green planet below. Earth. It was a world he had studied for years, a world that should have been an easy target. Primitive humans, fragile bodies, and outdated technology. This mission was supposed to be a quick conquest. But something felt wrong. Something wasn't adding up. Kale Thor's sharp eyes scanned the data pouring in from reconnaissance drones. The report showed human cities filled with towering skyscrapers, highways buzzing with vehicles, and factories churning out machines faster than his fleet could track. Even worse, their military had developed weapons far beyond what his intelligence officers had predicted. Lasers, energy shields, and even spacecraft capable of leaving Earth's atmosphere. How had they advanced so quickly? He clenched his fists, frustration boiling inside him. This wasn't supposed to happen. Humans were supposed to be weak, divided, and easy to crush. Instead, they seemed dangerous, overpowered. The very thought made his blood boil. How can such short-lived creatures achieve so much? He muttered under his breath. His second in command, a smaller but equally fierce alien named Zurn, glanced nervously at him. "General, shall we proceed with the invasion?" Kale Thor hesitated only for a moment before giving the order. "Yes. We attack now. No delays." He turned back to the view screen, watching as Earth rotated slowly beneath them. "Let's see how these humans fare against our might." On Earth, Daniel Carter sat hunched over his desk in a dimly lit laboratory. Papers were scattered everywhere, coffee cups piled high, and his computer screen glowed with streams of complex data. Daniel was a scientist, one of the brightest minds working for the Global Defense Initiative, GDI. For weeks, he had been tracking strange signals coming from deep space. At first, he thought they were random bursts of cosmic radiation, but as more data came in, it became clear. Something, or someone, was heading toward Earth. "Laura," Daniel called out, spinning, his chair around to face the doorway. Laura Bennett, his boss and head of the GDI Research Division, walked in with her usual brisk pace. She was a tall woman with sharp features and an even sharper mind. Her blonde hair was tied back in a tight ponytail, and she carried a tablet tucked under one arm. "What is it, Daniel?" she asked, stopping just inside the room. "You sounded urgent, on the phone." Daniel gestured for her to come closer. "Look at this," he said, pointing to the graphs displayed on his monitor. "These aren't natural signals. They're consistent, deliberate, and they're getting closer." Laura leaned over, squinting at the numbers. After a few moments, her expression darkened. "You think it's aliens?" "I don't think," Daniel replied firmly. "I know. These patterns match known extraterrestrial communication protocols. Whoever, or whatever, is sending these signals will reach Earth within days." Laura straightened up, already thinking ahead. "We need to alert command immediately. If there's even a chance this is hostile, we have to prepare." Daniel nodded. "Agreed, but there's more." He tapped a few keys on his keyboard, pulling up another set of data. "These signals are accompanied by thermal readings. Big ones, like ships. Lots of them." Laura let out a slow breath. "An invasion fleet?" "Looks like it," Daniel confirmed grimly. "And based on their trajectory, they'll arrive sooner than we expected." Without wasting another second, Laura grabbed her tablet and headed for the door. "Stay here and keep analyzing. I'll call an emergency meeting with the council." Hours later, the GDI headquarters buzzed with activity. Scientists, military personnel, and government officials crowded into the main briefing room. A large holographic display projected images of the approaching fleet above the conference table. Tension filled the air as everyone waited for Laura to speak. "We've identified multiple objects moving toward Earth at incredible speeds," Laura began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Based on preliminary analysis, they appear to be spacecraft of unknown origin. Our best estimate puts their arrival time at less than 72 hours. Murmurs rippled through the room. Someone near the back raised their hand. "Do we know if they're hostile?" Not yet, Laura admitted. But given their size and formation, it's highly likely. We're preparing defense grids and mobilizing all available forces. However, we need to consider worst-case scenarios. Man sitting next to Daniel spoke up. What about countermeasures? Do we have anything that can stop them? Daniel cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention. We've been reverse engineering alien tech from previous encounters. Some of it has already been integrated into our systems. Plasma rifles, energy shields, they're ready for deployment. But whether they'll hold up against whatever's coming remains to be seen. The room fell silent as the weight of the situation sank in. Humanity had faced threats before, but nothing on this scale. An entire fleet descending upon Earth meant mass casualties unless they acted fast. After the meeting ended, Daniel returned to his lab, his mind racing. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. As he worked late into the night, fine-tuning algorithms and reviewing satellite footage, he noticed something unusual. Embedded within the alien signals was a faint pattern, a repeating sequence that didn't align with any known language or code. Was it a message? Or just noise? Before he could investigate further, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red. Lights flashed overhead as automated voices announced an incoming transmission. Daniel rushed to the control panel, heart pounding. On the monitor, static fizzled and crackled before resolving into a clear image. It was an alien. The creature looked unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. Its body was covered in sleek metallic scales, and its elongated limbs ended in razor-sharp claws. Glowing red eyes locked onto the camera, radiating menace. Behind it, rows of similar beings stood in formation, armed with weapons that pulsed with energy. This is General Kael Thor of the Zyran Empire. The creature growled, its voice distorted but intelligible. Your planet will surrender unconditionally. Resist and you will be annihilated. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Daniel frozen in shock. That was it. The declaration of war. He knew humanity wouldn't go down without a fight, but he also knew the odds weren't in their favor. As dawn broke outside, Daniel stepped onto the balcony overlooking the city. Below, people went about their daily lives, oblivious to the danger hurtling toward them. Somewhere out there, Kael Thor and his fleet were closing in, ready to strike. Daniel took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. Humanity would need every ounce of courage, ingenuity, and determination to survive. And maybe, just maybe, they'd prove to the universe that Earth wasn't so easy to conquer after all. The alien fleet descended upon Earth with terrifying precision. Massive ships glowing faintly against the morning sky hovered over cities across the globe. Their presence was both awe-inspiring and horrifying, like a storm that refused to break. Kael Thor led the charge, stepping out of his flagship onto the surface of Earth for the first time. His towering figure cast a long shadow as he surveyed the humans gathered before him. The scene unfolded in New York City, where soldiers stood ready, their weapons aimed at the invaders. The streets were eerily quiet, save for the hum of energy, shields, and the distant cries of panicked civilians. Emily Dawson, a combat medic with short brown hair and a determined expression, moved swiftly among the troops, handing out supplies and checking equipment. She wasn't just there to patch up wounds, she was there to keep everyone alive. Kael Thor stepped forward, his voice booming like thunder. "Surrender now, or face destruction," he declared, his words translated into human languages by some kind of advanced device. The soldiers didn't flinch. Instead, they tightened their grips on their weapons, waiting for orders. From behind the front line, Captain Ryan Mitchell raised a hand, signaling his team to hold steady. A seasoned leader with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor, Ryan had trained his squad for moments like this. Though no one had imagined they'd be fighting aliens, the principles were the same: stay focused, adapt, and survive. Without warning, the aliens opened fire. Bright beams of energy shot through the air, striking buildings and vehicles. Explosions rocked the city, sending debris flying in all directions. Chaos erupted as people screamed and ran for cover, but the soldiers held their ground, firing back with plasma rifles. weapons they had reverse-engineered from earlier encounters with extraterrestrial technology. Emily ducked behind a pile of rubble, her heart pounding. She could hear the whine of energy blasts overhead and the sharp crackle of return fire. Her hands trembled slightly as she pulled out a medical kit, preparing herself for what was to come. Nearby, a soldier cried out after being hit by an alien weapon. Emily sprang into action, rushing toward him despite the danger. "Stay down," she shouted as she reached the injured man. He clutched his leg, blood seeping through his fingers. Emily worked quickly, applying a tourniquet and administering painkillers. "You'll be okay," she told him, though she wasn't sure if she believed it herself. Once he was stable, she helped him crawl to safety before returning to the battlefield. Meanwhile, Daniel Carter sat in a secure bunker beneath GDI headquarters, frantically analyzing data streaming in from satellites and drones. Each second brought new information about the aliens' movements, tactics, and weaponry. Laura Bennett paced beside him, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She glanced at the screens, then back at Daniel. "Anything useful?" she asked, her tone clipped. Daniel nodded without looking up. "Their shields are strong but not impenetrable. If we focus our fire, we might be able to overload them." He pointed to a graph showing fluctuations in the aliens' energy signatures. "And their weapons, they're powerful, but they take time to recharge. There's a window of opportunity if we act fast." Laura grabbed her radio and relayed the information to field commanders. Within minutes, the soldiers adjusted their strategies. They began targeting specific areas of the alien defenses, exploiting weaknesses Daniel had identified. Slowly but surely, they started gaining ground. Back in New York, Ryan noticed the shift in momentum. "Keep pushing," he yelled to his team. "We've got them on the ropes." The soldiers pressed forward, taking advantage of every opening. One by one, the aliens fell back, retreating to regroup. Cale Thor watched the battle unfold from a distance, his frustration mounting. These humans weren't behaving the way he had expected. Instead of breaking under pressure, they adapted. Instead of fleeing in terror, they fought back with everything they had. It was infuriating and unsettling. He turned to Zern, who stood nearby. "What is wrong with them? Why won't they yield?" Zern hesitated, unsure how to answer. Perhaps they value their freedom more than survival," Cale Thor snarled. "Freedom means nothing when you're dead." He clenched his fists, watching as another group of his warriors was forced to retreat. This wasn't going according to plan. Not at all. As the day wore on, the fighting intensified. Buildings crumbled, streets burned, and countless lives were lost. But the humans refused to give up. Injured soldiers dragged themselves back into the fray, civilians risked their lives to help the wounded, and engineers worked tirelessly to repair damaged equipment. Even ordinary people joined the effort, using whatever tools they could find to defend their homes. In the midst of the chaos, Emily found herself face to face with an alien soldier. It loomed over her, its glowing eyes fixed on hers. For a moment, fear paralyzed her. Then she remembered the knife strapped to her belt. Summoning every ounce of courage, she lunged forward, driving the blade into the creature's side. It let out a guttural roar before collapsing, leaving Emily shaken but alive. Breathing heavily, she leaned against a wall, staring at the alien's lifeless body. She had never killed anyone or anything before. The weight of it hit her hard, but there was no time to dwell on it. Around her, the battle raged on. Eventually, Cale Thor realized his forces were losing. His frustration boiled over into anger as he ordered a temporary retreat. "Fall back," he bellowed, his voice carrying across the battlefield. "Regroup and prepare for the next assault." The aliens withdrew, disappearing into their ships as quickly as they had arrived. The sudden silence was almost deafening. Soldiers lowered their weapons cautiously, unsure if the fight was truly over. Civilians emerged from hiding places, coughing and crying as they surveyed the damage. Smoke filled the air and the acrid smell of burnt metal lingered everywhere. Emily slumped to the ground, exhausted but relieved. She looked around at the faces of her comrades, many of whom were bruised and bloodied but still standing. They had survived. For now. At GDI headquarters, Daniel finally allowed himself a brief moment of rest. Leaning back in his chair, he rubbed his temples, trying to process everything that had happened. Laura placed a hand on his shoulder. "Good work today," she said softly. "You saved lives." Daniel managed a weak smile. Let's hope it's enough. But deep down, they both knew the war was far from over. Kael'thor wouldn't give up easily, and neither would humanity. Both sides had been tested and both had proven resilient. The question was, who would break first? For now, the humans celebrated their small victory. But in the shadows, Kael'thor plotted his next move, vowing to crush the resistance once and for all. The aftermath of the first battle left Earth scarred but not defeated. Cities bore the marks of destruction, burnt-out buildings, shattered streets, and piles of rubble that once stood as homes and businesses. Yet amidst the devastation, there was a flicker of hope. Humanity had survived its first encounter with Kael'thor's forces, proving they could hold their ground. But everyone knew this was only the beginning. Deep within the GDI headquarters, Daniel Carter pored over intercepted, alien transmissions. His eyes were red from lack of sleep and his fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as he decrypted streams of data. Laura Bennett sat beside him, sipping cold coffee while watching the screens intently. They had been working non-stop since the battle ended, searching for any advantage they could use against the invaders. "Wait," Daniel said suddenly, leaning closer to the monitor. "There's something here." He pointed to a series of binary codes embedded in the transmission. It wasn't part of the usual alien communication protocols. It was different, almost like a hidden message. Laura frowned. "What is it?" "I'm not sure yet," Daniel replied, typing rapidly. "But it's definitely deliberate. Someone, or something, is trying to send us information." After hours of analysis, the truth became clear. The message came from a faction within the alien empire opposed to Kael'thor's invasion. These rebels identified themselves as the Veyran Alliance, led by a commander named Vera. Their goal was simple. They wanted to stop Kael'thor's reckless campaign and establish peace between humans and aliens. Daniel turned to Laura, his expression serious. "They're offering to help us. In exchange, they want safe passage when this is over." Laura hesitated. Trusting an alien faction felt risky, especially in the middle of a war. But they didn't have many options. "Do we have any proof they're telling the truth?" she asked. Daniel nodded. "Their intel checks out so far, and look at this." He pulled up a schematic of one of Kael'thor's ships, complete with weak points and vulnerabilities. "This kind of detail wouldn't be shared lightly. I think they're on our side," Laura sighed. "Let's bring this to the council. If we can work together, it might give us the edge we need." Emily Dawson walked through the ruins of New York City, her boots crunching on broken glass and debris. The city was eerily quiet now, save for the occasional sound of distant construction, crews clearing wreckage. She carried a medical bag slung over her shoulder, ready to tend to anyone who needed help. Despite the chaos around her, Emily felt a strange sense of purpose. For the first time in her life, she knew exactly what she was fighting for. As she rounded a corner, she spotted Captain Ryan Mitchell standing near a group of soldiers. His face was grim as he studied a map spread out on the hood of a damaged car. Emily approached cautiously, unsure if she should interrupt. "Captain," she said softly. Ryan glanced up, his sharp eyes softening slightly when he saw her. "Emily, what's going on?" "I just wanted to check in," she replied. "How are the troops holding up?" Ryan rubbed the back of his neck, clearly exhausted. "They're doing their best, but morale's low. People are scared. We've lost too many already." Emily nodded sympathetically. "I'll do what I can to keep spirits up. Maybe organize some rest shifts or get food distributed more evenly." Ryan gave her a small smile. "You're a lifesaver, you know that?" Before Emily could respond, a soldier ran up to them, breathless. "Sir, there's been another attack, this time in Chicago." Ryan's jaw tightened. "How bad is it?" "Bad," the soldier replied. "Kael'thor's forces hit hard. We've got reports of heavy casualties." Without hesitation, Ryan grabbed his rifle. "We move out in 5 minutes. Gather the team." Emily watched as the soldiers scrambled to prepare, her heart sinking. Just when things seemed to calm down, the aliens struck again. She knew they couldn't keep losing like this forever. Something had to change. Meanwhile, Cale Thor paced angrily aboard his flagship. His fury was palpable, filling the air like static electricity. The humans had proven far more resourceful than he had anticipated, and now his own people were turning against him. Reports of defections within the fleet reached him daily, further fueling his rage. "How dare they betray me?" he roared, slamming his fist against the wall. Zern flinched but remained silent, knowing better than to speak unless spoken to. Finally, Cale Thor stopped pacing and glared at his second-in-command. "Tell me, Zern, what do you think of these pathetic creatures? Do you admire their resilience, their ingenuity?" Zern hesitated before answering carefully. "They are impressive, General, but they are still mortal. Mortal beings cannot withstand the full might of our empire." Cale Thor sneered. "Impressive? They are nothing but insects scurrying beneath our feet, and yet they refuse to die." He clenched his fists, his voice dropping to a growl. "No matter, I will crush them myself if I must." With that, Cale Thor devised a new plan, a devastating strike aimed directly at the heart of human resistance. Using intelligence gathered from spies planted among the rebels, he learned the location of the GDI headquarters. If he could destroy their central command, the humans would fall into disarray. Back on Earth, the alliance between the GDI and the Veyran rebels began to take shape. Commander Veyra communicated regularly with Laura and Daniel, sharing crucial information about Cale Thor's strategies and weaknesses. In return, the GDI provided the rebels with safe zones and resources. Veyra herself was unlike any alien Emily had ever seen. Her sleek, silver body shimmered faintly in the light, and her large, almond-shaped eyes radiated intelligence and determination. When she spoke, her voice was calm and measured, carrying an air of authority. "We cannot afford to lose," Veyra told Laura during one of their meetings. "Cale Thor's actions threaten not only your world, but ours as well. Together, we must end this madness." Laura nodded. "We'll do whatever it takes." Under Veyra's guidance, the GDI integrated advanced alien technology into their defenses. Plasma rifles became even more powerful, energy shields grew stronger, and new tactics emerged. Soldiers trained tirelessly, learning how to use the upgraded equipment effectively. Emily found herself on the front lines once again, this time armed with a hybrid weapon designed by the combined efforts of human and alien engineers. The gun hummed softly in her hands, its sleek design feeling both foreign and familiar. As she practiced firing it, she marveled at its precision and power. "This changes everything," Ryan said as he watched his team train. "We finally have a chance to turn the tide." But Cale Thor wasn't idle. His fleet descended upon Washington, D.C., targeting the GDI headquarters with relentless force. Explosions rocked the city as alien ships unleashed barrages of energy blasts. Buildings crumbled, and smoke filled the air, choking the streets. Inside the headquarters, Daniel and Laura scrambled to evacuate critical personnel. Files were destroyed, computers wiped clean, and sensitive materials transported to secure bunkers. Time was running out. "Daniel, we need to go," Laura shouted, grabbing his arm. He shook his head stubbornly. "Not yet. I can still access the mainframe. If we lose this data, we lose everything." Laura hesitated, torn between safety and necessity. Finally, she relented. "Fine, but hurry." As they worked frantically, Emily led a group of civilians to safety. Her mind raced with thoughts of the soldiers still fighting outside. Were they holding their ground? Or was Cale Thor's assault too much to withstand? Suddenly, a massive explosion shook the building. Debris rained down, forcing everyone to take cover. Emily shielded her face, coughing as dust filled the air. Through the chaos, she heard Ryan's voice crackle over the radio. "Fall back to the secondary position. Repeat, fall back." The battle was far from over. The attack on Washington, D.C. was unlike anything humanity had faced before. Thor's forces struck with unrelenting fury, their ships hovering ominously above the city as beams of energy tore through buildings and streets. The GDI headquarters, once a symbol of hope and resistance, now stood in ruins, its walls crumbling under the relentless assault. Smoke billowed into the sky, blotting out the sun and casting the city in an eerie twilight. Inside the crumbling structure, Daniel Carter and Laura Bennett worked desperately to salvage what they could. Files were uploaded to secure servers, physical documents shredded, and critical equipment loaded onto trucks bound for underground bunkers. Every second counted, and the sound of collapsing walls grew louder with each passing moment. "We're running out of time," Laura shouted over the din of destruction. She grabbed a hard drive containing vital data and shoved it into her bag. "Daniel, let's go." Daniel hesitated, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he tried to finish. "One last upload. Just a few more seconds," he yelled back, sweat dripping down his face. Outside, explosions rocked the building, sending chunks of concrete crashing to the ground. Finally, the progress bar reached 100%. "Okay, I'm done," he cried, grabbing his laptop and sprinting toward the exit. As they emerged from the wreckage, the scene was chaos. Soldiers fired at alien invaders while civilians fled in all directions, their faces streaked with soot and tears. Emily Dawson moved, among them, helping the injured and guiding people to safety. Her hybrid weapon hung at her side, ready to be used if needed. Despite the fear in her heart, she refused to give up. Captain Ryan Mitchell led a counterattack, rallying his troops to hold the line. "Stay focused," he barked, his voice cutting through the noise. "We can't let them push us back any further." His team responded with determination, their upgraded weapons glowing brightly as they unleashed bursts of energy at the advancing aliens. Thor watched the battle unfold from his flagship, his frustration mounting. "How are they still fighting?" he growled, slamming his fist against the console. "They should have been crushed by now." Zern stood nearby, visibly uneasy. "General, perhaps we underestimated their resolve. With the Rebel Alliance aiding them, they've grown stronger than anticipated," Thor snarled. "I don't care about their resolve or their allies. I will not tolerate failure." He turned to his crew. "Prepare my personal transport. It's time I dealt with these pests myself." Hours later, Thor descended to Earth, his massive form exuding menace as he stepped onto the battlefield. The sight of him sent shockwaves through both sides. Soldiers froze momentarily, unsure how to react to such a towering figure. But Ryan quickly regained his composure. "Keep firing," he ordered. "Don't let him intimidate you." Plasma blasts erupted around Thor, but his energy shield absorbed the hits without faltering. He laughed, a deep, menacing sound that echoed through the streets. "You think your toys can harm me?" he taunted, raising a clawed hand. A surge of energy shot forth, knocking several soldiers off their feet. Emily saw the carnage unfold and felt a surge of anger. She couldn't stand idly by while her comrades fell. Gripping her hybrid weapon tightly, she took aim and fired. The blast struck Thor's shield, causing it to flicker briefly. He turned his glowing red eyes on her, surprised by the strength of her attack. "You dare challenge me?" he roared, striding toward her with terrifying speed. Emily's heart raced, but she held her ground. As Thor approached, she fired again and again, each shot chipping away at his defenses. Behind her, other soldiers joined in, pelting him with concentrated fire. For a moment, it seemed like they might actually drive him back. But Thor wasn't finished. With a roar of fury, he unleashed a devastating wave of energy, scattering the soldiers and sending Emily tumbling to the ground. Her weapon skittered out of reach as she struggled to catch her breath. Towering over her, Thor raised a clawed hand, preparing to strike. Before he could deliver the killing blow, a squad of Varen rebels appeared, led by Commander Vera herself. They opened fire, forcing Thor to turn his attention away from Emily. Taking advantage of the distraction, Emily scrambled to her feet and retrieved her weapon. "Are you all right?" Vera asked, her voice calm despite the chaos. Emily nodded, clutching her gun tightly. "Thanks to you." Vera gave a small nod before turning her focus back to Thor. "We must retreat for now," she said firmly. regroup and plan our next move. Reluctantly, Emily followed Vera and the others as they withdrew to safer ground. Though they had survived this encounter, it was clear Kael'thor was far from defeated. In the aftermath of the battle, the Human-Alien Alliance convened in a hidden bunker outside the city. Daniel, Laura, Emily, Ryan, and several key figures from the GDI met with Vera and her top advisors to strategize their next steps. The mood was tense but hopeful. Together they reviewed intel provided by the rebels and devised a daring counteroffensive. Our best chance is to target Kael'thor directly, Daniel explained, pointing to a holographic map of the alien fleet. If we can disable his flagship, the rest of his forces will lose cohesion. Vera nodded in agreement. His arrogance makes him predictable. He won't expect us to strike so boldly. Ryan leaned forward, studying the map. It's risky, but it might work. We'll need every available soldier and ship for this to succeed. Laura looked around the room, meeting everyone's eyes. This is our only shot. If we fail, there may not be another opportunity. The group spent hours refining their plan, ensuring every detail was accounted for. By the time they finished, dawn was breaking outside. Exhausted but resolute, they prepared to launch their final assault. The day of the attack arrived, and the combined human-rebel fleet took to the skies. Ships of all sizes soared upward, their engines roaring as they approached Kael'thor's flagship. The alien vessels responded immediately, engaging in fierce dogfights that lit up the atmosphere with bursts of energy. On the ground, Emily led a small team tasked with infiltrating the flagship. Armed with hybrid weapons and guided by precise coordinates provided by Daniel, they fought their way through waves of alien defenders. The corridors of the ship were dimly lit and eerily silent, save for the occasional clash of weapons. As they neared the command center, Emily spotted Kael'thor standing tall, his back to them as he issued orders to his crew. She signaled for her team to take positions, then raised her weapon. "This ends now," she whispered, her finger tightening on the trigger. With a sudden burst of courage, Emily stepped forward, aiming directly at Kael'thor. The alien general turned just in time to see her pull the trigger. Emily's finger tightened on the trigger, and a burst of energy shot from her hybrid weapon, striking Kael'thor square in the chest. The alien general staggered backward, his glowing red eyes widening in shock. For a moment, it seemed like the impossible had happened. Kael'thor, the towering figure who had brought Earth to its knees, was vulnerable. But his shield flickered back to life, absorbing the brunt of the attack. Roaring with rage, he turned toward Emily, his claws raised to strike. Before he could move, however, the rest of her team opened fire. Blasts of energy erupted around him, forcing him to retreat behind cover. "Keep firing," Emily shouted, reloading her weapon. Her heart pounded as she realized how close they were to ending this nightmare. If they could disable Kael'thor here, humanity might finally have a chance at survival. Kael'thor wasn't alone. His elite guard surged forward, their weapons blazing. Emily and her team dove for cover, exchanging fire with the aliens in a desperate bid to hold their ground. Each second felt like an eternity, but Emily refused to give up. She remembered the faces of the people she had fought to protect, the soldiers who had fallen, the civilians who had fled in terror, and drew strength from their courage. Above them, the battle raged on. Human and rebel ships clashed with Kael'thor's fleet in a dazzling display of light and sound. Plasma beams streaked across the sky, and explosions lit up the darkness. Captain Ryan Mitchell led the charge, his voice crackling over the comms, as he coordinated the assault. "Focus fire on the flagship," he ordered. "We need to breach its defenses." The Human-Rebel Alliance worked seamlessly, their combined forces proving more effective than either side could have achieved alone. Slowly but surely, they began to gain the upper hand. Kael'thor's fleet faltered, its ships retreating or being destroyed one by one. Inside the flagship, Emily and her team pressed onward. They reached the command center just as Kael'thor regained his footing. He stood tall, his massive form casting a shadow over the room. His glowing eyes burned with fury as he surveyed the intruders. "You think you can defeat me?" he snarled, his voice shaking the walls. You are nothing but insects. Emily stepped forward, her weapon aimed steadily at him. Maybe we're insects, she said, her voice firm despite the fear coursing through her. But even insects can bring down giants. With that, she fired again, her shot joined by those of her teammates. The combined force overwhelmed Kael'thor's shield, causing it to collapse entirely. He roared in pain as the blast struck him, his body staggering under the assault. Finally, with one last defiant cry, he fell to the ground, defeated. For a moment, there was silence. Emily lowered her weapon, her hands trembling as she stared at the fallen alien general. It was over. Kael'thor, the architect of Earth's destruction, was gone. Outside, the tide of the battle shifted dramatically. Without Kael'thor's leadership, his remaining forces began to retreat. Ships turned tail and fled into space, leaving the skies above Earth eerily quiet. Soldiers and rebels alike cheered, their voices echoing across the battlefield. The war was far from over, but humanity had won a crucial victory. Back at the bunker, Daniel Carter and Laura Bennett monitored the situation closely. As reports poured in confirming the aliens' withdrawal, a wave of relief washed over them. Daniel leaned back in his chair, exhaustion etched on his face. "We did it," he said softly. "Against all odds, we actually did it." Laura nodded, a small smile breaking through her usual stoic expression. "For now, at least. We still have a lot of work ahead of us." She was right. The damage to Earth was immense, and rebuilding would take years, if not decades. Cities lay in ruins, resources were scarce, and countless lives had been lost. But amidst the devastation, there was hope. Humanity had proven itself resilient, adaptable, and united in the face of overwhelming odds. Commander Vera approached them, her sleek form shimmering faintly in the dim light. "Your species has earned my respect," she said, her voice calm, but sincere. "You have shown great strength and determination. My people will honor our agreement and assist in your recovery efforts." Daniel and Laura exchanged glances before nodding gratefully. "Thank you," Daniel replied. "We couldn't have done this without your help." Vera gave a slight bow before turning to leave. As she walked away, Laura turned to Daniel. "What happens now?" He sighed, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Now, we rebuild, and we prepare for whatever comes next." In the days that followed, the world began the long process of healing. Emily returned to civilian life, though she remained active in humanitarian efforts. She visited hospitals, helped distribute supplies, and spoke to communities about resilience and unity. Her actions during the war had earned her recognition, but she didn't seek fame or glory. All she wanted was to make a difference. Captain Ryan Mitchell continued to lead his troops, overseeing cleanup operations and ensuring security in the aftermath of the invasion. Though weary from months of fighting, he found solace in knowing that his sacrifices, and those of his comrades, had not been in vain. Daniel and Laura worked tirelessly to analyze the data recovered from Kael'thor's flagship. They hoped to learn more about the alien technology and prevent future conflicts. Their discoveries would pave the way for new advancements, strengthening Earth's defenses against any potential threats. As for Kael'thor, his fate remained uncertain. Though presumed dead, whispers of his survival spread among both humans and aliens. Some believed he had escaped, vowing revenge on humanity. Others dismissed these rumors as mere speculation. Either way, the threat of his return loomed large, a reminder that peace was fragile and hard-won. Despite the challenges ahead, humanity stood stronger than ever. The war had tested them in ways no one could have imagined, but it had also brought out the best in them. Ordinary people had risen to extraordinary heights, proving that even in the darkest times hope could prevail. One evening, Emily stood on a hill overlooking what remained of New York City. The skyline was broken, scarred by battle, but lights twinkled in the distance, a sign of life and perseverance. She took a deep breath, feeling a sense of pride mixed with sorrow. So much had been lost, but so much had been gained. "We'll keep going," she whispered to herself, gazing at the stars. No matter what happens next, we'll keep going. And somewhere in the vastness of space, a faint hum signaled the departure of the last alien ship. Earth was safe. For now.